Hi everyone, it's Evelyn, and in this week's video we're going to go over 7 flower arrangements I put together, and I put them together for Christmas at the museum. I only did 7 arrangements for the season because that is the only place I go to sell at for the Christmas season, and I do that because they actually do sell my cards and prints in their magnets in their gift shop. And Christmas at the museum is about the people who sell at the gift shop set up tables in the lobby for that one day in the Christmas season, and people can come and actually meet the people who sell in the store. So I'm one of those, and I set up and I sell my gift cards. And if you haven't seen my Birds and Santa Hat Christmas cards yet, check out the link in the description box below. It's on my Etsy page. I also sell my magnets and prints, etc., as well as dried flower arrangements. Now, the other reason I only did 7 is because that's as many as I could make with the dried flowers that I had. I don't have a lot of dried flowers because I only dry the ones that I don't sell, and I don't cut masses every day to sell. I cut what I know I will probably sell plus a percentage more, and that's how I work through it. And I also only start drying flowers in July. June is generally a wet year for us, so drying isn't going to happen very well because it's high humidity in June. And because we are close to the ocean, we're higher humidity anyway. And if I start drying flowers in August, it's too late. By the time the rainy season generally starts, my flowers aren't dry yet. So I only have the month of June to do, July to do drying in. And that's what I did. And I only do it with the ones that haven't sold. Now, I'm really, really glad that I'm doing this video inside today, because if you look at the ocean, it's windy and miserable outside. I mean, the waves on the ocean are pretty big. It'd be kind of fun to be down at the beach with the dogs, but I'd have to be dressed appropriately. But enough of all that. Let's get into the very first vase that I arranged, and we'll go into it in detail as to how I did it. We're going to start with what I call the rock glass vase. I'm going to Google what that type of rock look here is, because off the top of my head I can't remember, but I just think it's really, really beautiful. This is a fairly low vase. As you can see, there's my hand. It's probably only the height of my hand, and so it didn't need a tall arrangement. What was cool about it is when I was drying the few flowers that I was drying, when I took them off of their drying ropes, I sorted them according to stem length. And all of these flowers here had all the same stem length. They were ones, not from bouquets because the stems were too short, but from pop cans. Most of them are dahlias, like that's a Lindsay Michelle there. This one is, I honestly can't remember what that one is. That's an Edinburgh, I believe, and so forth. There's my Kenora MacB over here, which I just love dried because it's such a beautiful dark purple. But I put all these ones this size in one pot, and when I came, this is the first arrangement that I did, and when I came to do it, I thought, well, those look like the right length, and I grabbed the whole clump, and I set it, I just broke off a flower head. I set it into the pot, and that was it. I didn't do any more arranging. All that I did was I added in a few poppy pods, as you can see here. There's another one over there. And I added in some dried red astilbe and the only dried white astilbe that I had there. And that created the bouquet. It's the fastest and easiest dried flower arrangement I've ever made. I'll just spin it around so that you can see what else is in here. There's another little poppy pod there. I think I pointed that one out already. Spin it a bit more. I have no idea. I can't remember what most of the dahlias are. I just, if they didn't sell, I just dried them. And I didn't have that many to dry, so it wasn't a big deal. I think there's oh, what's that thing called now? Blanking out. Doesn't matter. Cornell bronze, that's what it is. Here's a Petra's Wedding. There's a Kenora MacB up there. I've forgotten how much I love the dried Kenora MacBs, but all the deep dark reds and purples kind of dry the same color. I mean, this one, that's a
Addison June. That's that looks like a Kenora MacB. That looks like an Edinburgh. They all kind of dry with the same super deep purple, which I really, really like. You can see I've got quite a few light Petra's Weddings in there. And then around this side I have yellow. These have to be French Louis Mayer. They sure dried with spiky petals, just because of the size. They're not overly large, and they're looser petaled than I think they would be otherwise. But yeah, I really, really love how that turned out with next to no arranging. The only reason I added in the Astilbe is because when I put the flowers in there, I just found that the height of the flowers for the height of the vase was still a bit too low. So I put the Astilbe spikes and poppy pods in there to give it height. Not to give it spike, but just to give it height. And I think that worked out really nicely. And with the difference in the texture, it adds a little bit as well.
So in that clip, I talked about how I used the stems that were certain length and they were that short because I was selling them in pop cans. If you haven't watched my video on how I maximize sales in my roadside flower wagon, I talk about how I use pop cans. So I'll leave a link to that below my link to the Etsy shop in the description box below. So you can check that out after you've watched this video to see how I successfully use pop cans as one of my ways of selling flowers.
The second flower arrangement that I wanted to do in this pot because I just thought it was so cute. It's somebody out in the garden harvesting. He's got his little spade or whatever that is there, his little watering can, and he's got his sack on his back that he's putting stuff that he's harvesting into. So for that reason, I really wanted to give it a look of harvesting. So I added a lot more pods. So aside from the poppy pods, there's one, there's a few there, quite a few in the back. I added in Nigella pods. I'm going to bring this closer so you can see them. So you can see that Nigella pod there. I'll just give you a little panorama around of what that looks like. Now, I didn't think I was going to be liking or using the Nigella pods at all. In fact, I'd pretty much written it off as something not to grow for next year. But I'm really liking how the Nigella pods, they've got that same sort of strong presence like the poppy pods do, but then they've got all this light feathery stuff around it from their dried leaves, which really adds quite something to it. I really, really love that. Here's another dried Edinburgh dahlia. Here's an Addison June. This here is black button bachelor buttons, and that's one reason I really love the black button bachelor buttons. They just add something to dried flower arrangements. Again, I've got some short Astilbe fronds in there. This time I've got some yellow yarrow that's dried and a full-headed daisy whose name I can't remember, and I'll put it on the screen. But I really wanted to make the arrangement look like it was something this little fellow had harvested, so more of a story than as a beautiful dried bouquet arrangement. So that's this little guy. I just think he's so adorable. Here's another one that looks like a little harvester, except instead of a person, it's I don't know if that's a rooster or a chicken. If you know if it's a rooster or chicken, comment down below and let me know what it is. I'd love to know. And he's got a little flower pot, and I've decided to turn it into a little harvesting pot because lots of us harvest inside flower pots all the time. So again, we've got the Nigella pods, poppy pods. That's a dried something, no idea what. We've got bachelor buttons dried in there, black button bachelor buttons. Cornell bronze probably is that, I'm not really 100% sure. And I think this is a Lindsay Michelle up here. Let's see if I can tip this and see it without stuff falling out. I don't know if that's a Lindsay Michelle, maybe not. Might be, kind of hard to tell. But that's what this little guy looks like. Here, I'll bring him in. Oops, that really puts that guy in close and focus. So it's just a cute little, just, you know, a little bit of a haphazard, whatever I had that was, that's falling out, whatever I had that was really tiny stemmed to fit into this little flower pot, I just popped into there. And that's that little guy. I think he's just adorable. This teeny tiny picture is a Green Mountain pottery piece. Green Mountain is a Canadian pottery studio that was based literally at the base of Green Mountain. I don't think it's in existence anymore. They were considered quite collectible in their time. And a lot of them did have this distinct green glazing on it with the black. Now here, again, I just used up, I basically went with stem lengths. And whatever I had that was really short stemmed went into it. I may have broken off a few yellows to add in there because I really liked the dried yellow dahlias in here. I've got dried nigella there, black button, bachelor buttons, Petra's wedding, some short stems of Astilbe, which were of course broken off because Astilbe is quite a bit longer. You'll see if I turn it to the top, I have red yarrow and I have pink yarrow and some poppy pods there. And down here I have a Cornell bronze, I believe. And yeah, so it's got a pouring spout on it. I don't know if you can see that. I'll come in closer. Hard to see on there. But that's what this little guy looks like. And again, I did the spike for height because the short stems were pretty low, and without them, I felt that the dried flower arrangement was too bulky for the vase. But by adding in the spikes of the Astilbe, it reduced the bulk because now I've got a bigger volume, but it has a lot of air through it.
So we're about halfway through the video right now, so I thought this would be the perfect time to ask you to like if you haven't liked the video yet, and subscribe if you haven't. Also, what are your favorite flowers? Leave them in the comment section below. I'd love to hear what your favorite flowers are. Now, let's get back to the video.
This particular dried flower arrangement is the last of my short stems. So it's got a pinch mouth raku pottery. Let's bring it closer, which has that beautiful glazing, all like an oil slick almost on it. I just love the way raku pottery looks. And what I put in it was the last of the short stems. And again, that would have kept it way too low for the vase as far as volume of flowers. So I added in some longer stems for height, and I kept them quite airy again because it's got this thin neck here and then longer here. So this little round ball here just felt out of proportion with this. So by putting some airy, tall ones in there with lots of negative space through it, it just seemed to balance the size of the vase out better. Now I purposefully kind of went asymmetrical. I've got a long nigella pod out here, a couple of the full-headed daisies up high. They are not, if you think of it as weight, they don't have as much weight as the black button, bachelor button, simply because of how dark that color is. This draws your eye way more than that, for example. So you can get away with a few more pieces on this side to balance out that one small piece on this side just because of the color. So if I bring it closer, you can see how I've got the bottom arranged. I'm going to take that off. That's just kind of like floating around and dangling. Oh, there's another one there. Get that off there. There we go. So we've got the nigella pods there. We've got the dried dahlias here. This one looks like a Wizard of Oz because it's got a lot of pink in it. Didn't dry very many Wizard of Oz. I sold most of them. We've got some pink yarrow in there. Edinburgh. And then as we come down here, we see more nigella. We see some more black button bachelor buttons. We've got one tall nigella pod, one tall black button bachelor buttons. And then we've got the, see if I can tip this so you can see it. Can I tip it this way? There we go. You can see the full-headed white daisies there, and a couple more there. Now you'll notice nothing's falling out of it. I put enough in there so that it stays in the vase. I mean, I can turn that sideways and they're fine. And that's really important to me because if I am selling these are going to be sold at Christmas at the Museum, which is just down the street from me. If anybody buys them, I want the arrangements to hold up until they get them to wherever they're going. I definitely had to go farther back to show this one. This beautiful glass vase is actually signed on the bottom. It's quite an expensive vase. And I really wanted the focus of this arrangement to be the vase and not the actual flowers. So I kept the dried flowers in it, minimal in color, just giving it height and volume to equal the height and volume of the vase, and keeping it more texturally interesting than colorfully interesting, so that the vase again becomes the drama of the arrangement. Now, if I go in closer, you'll notice that basically what I have is just a lot of Nigella pods. I've got a lot of Astilbe in here through the center. Down around the base, I have a lot of yarrow. And then I have a few yarrows on tall stems coming out the top as well. And that is all I wanted in this vase, because this vase itself is the star of the show, and the flowers are the secondary characters. Finally, I created this arrangement with everything that was left over. I actually did it first in a different vase that is the same series as this one, but I'll put it up on the screen. If you see this, you'll see that the vase is very rectangular almost in appearance, even though it's round. It's drum-like, but it's rectangular from a flat view. And the dried flower arrangement also looked rectangular, and I didn't like that juxtaposition of rectangular to rectangular. So I pulled them out of there. I had made the arrangement in that first, and I just pulled the whole thing out, pulled it out of the one vase, and put it into this picture. And that was that. I didn't do any more arranging. How it landed in this picture is how it ended up being, because I'd already made the arrangement. And it worked so much better because the picture is bulbous, then it narrows and goes out. And it's got this nice little handle on it. So the sort of rectangular feel of this arrangement isn't similar to the organic shape of this picture. I did do one little thing different because the handle was over here. I wanted to sort of take these Nigella pods, I pulled them out of the arrangement and I put them back in so that they went out this way because the handle goes out this way. So that was specifically done so that it wasn't symmetrical to the center of the vase, because this is offset. So I wanted a few things offset as well. So this is literally all of the dried flowers that I had, except for I still have poppy pods and dried astilbes, but those I can use in the spring when there's not much blooming. I can add them into the camellia bouquet, so I didn't want to use them all up, and I have quite a few of those left. But as far as other dried flowers go, I have none. Now here you can get a really good look at, hang on, I'll tip it, what a Lindsay Michelle dinner plate dahlia looks like when it's dried. Isn't that beautiful? And there's the black button bachelor button. We've got lots of Petra's wedding, lots of French Louis Maire. This, I believe, is Spartacus. Looks really purple when it's dry, even though it was very red. Then we have some yarrow tucked in down here. There's some Edinburgh. You can see here, there's another Lindsay Michelle tucked in there. Spin it around a bit. Here's another, I'll pull that off, whatever it is. Wizard of Oz, ball dahlia. Got poppy pods in here, Nigella pods, of course. I made sure that when I was making the other thing that it sat in here really nicely. So there's a lot of dahlias tucked into the center that you barely see. Oh, here's another really nice Lindsay Michelle with all that purple here and the yellow on the outside. Love that. So yeah, so that's that flower arrangement in this picture. There's the other side of it. If I spin it, you get a better view of the Nigella pods coming out this way because of the handle.